DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening we have some like elite elite appetizers. You know, like that fine cuisine appetizers. Such good appetizers. Like I've said before, it could be main course. And I'm talking about the results of the highly anticipated UFC 300, which was April 13th. On pay-per-view, and that was at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, USA. And there was 20,000 in attendance with 16.5 million total at the gate. And this card, they were billing it up as to be the best card, UFC card ever, or at least the best UFC card of this year, or in recent years, recent past. They're kind of building it up like WrestleMania just a couple of weeks ago. It's going to WrestleMania 40. It's going to be the best WrestleMania ever. Well, I'll say with both of those events now in the rearview mirror now, I would say that both of them did deliver. And UFC 300, I just kind of didn't think it had like the best star power at the top of the card, you know, with the women's title bout, and then, you know, Jamal Hill, who hadn't fought, had lost his belt and hadn't fought for a while, and then I mean you don't get a lot out of Alex Pereira on the mic at least. You get a lot of action in the cage, but this game isn't about talking anyway, so I guess that's not that big a deal. But let's just skim over some of the prelims and fight bonuses. So on the prelims, those were all pretty good fights. And I was stating earlier how I thought the first fight with Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage, I thought that fight could have been supplemented for either the Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holmes fight or the Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic fight. I think both of those fights would have been better, honestly, because of how highly anticipated the Kayla Harrison debut was, and she had a really impressive victory. I'm a little surprised that she didn't get a performance of the night, because she just absolutely dominated the 41, 42-year-old Holly Holmes. Like, Holly Holmes needs to hang it up, if you ask me, after just getting absolutely dominated by a female that had a Vitor Belfort back. Her back was looking like Vitor Belfort. Joe Rogan was saying TRT Belfort or TRT Harrison, I guess, but that was impressive, and I definitely see a women's bantamweight title bout in her future. And then the Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic, these were both on the preliminary card. So Alexander Rakic, he did win, or not Alexander Rakic, Yuri Prochazka won a performance of the night with his TKO by way of punches at the 3:17 mark of the second round. So he won that, and the commentary during that fight was great. They kept talking about how Alexander Rakic was like winning the fight. I'm talking about John Anik, Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier. They were talking about how Alexander Rakic was winning the fight and how he looked so great coming back from injury, hadn't fought in like 18 months or more, something like that. And then they were mentioned how they thought Yuri Prochazka's leg was compromised or injured, and then the next thing you know, in the towards the end of the second round, he's not knocking Rakic out with punches, TKO. And so always funny how these commentators, you know, I love Daniel Cormier, I love Joe Rogan, John Anik, he's good too, but sometimes the way they're so biased during a fight and not seeing that their bias is definitely skewed, and then they completely change like their bias after the fighter that they were all on their cup ends up losing. It's their the temperature check and gauge on how they feel for one fighter or another. It quickly changes. But yeah, overall, just the prelim alone probably would have been good enough for a fight night or even a pay-per-view. And so that was a great just in the preliminaries. And we went over some of the some of the fighter the bonuses, the fighting bonuses. So we have Yuri Prohaspet for the performance of the night. So he won one of them. There was only three of them for $300,000 bonuses. And I'll go over the other two here in a second as they kind of lead into the main card. So let's get into the main card here now that we've gone over the preliminary card. So can I get a menu? And so the middleweight bout between Bo Nichols versus Cody Brundage. This fight originally, I mentioned I didn't really think it should have been on the main card just because Bo Nichols he was albeit he's 5-0 and like all of his wins came by finishing the first round. So I understand, and he had such a great NCAA wrestling background, and he's a young up and coming prospect. So I understand why they wanted to try to get him on the pay-per-view and have him face a jag, a jag or a can, just another guy in Cody Brundage. And that's pretty much how the fight went. It wasn't an overly exciting fight, coming right out of the gate. Cody Brundage was trying all that he could to land some kind of wild strike and keep it on the ground. And then he ended up actually in the first round being the first one to try to take it to the ground, but it didn't work out in his favor. And then Bo Nichols, he was experiencing some of Cody Brundage's wild strikes and stuff, and he just showed he didn't want any part of that. So he took Cody Brundage down and pretty much dominated him the whole first round. Got him in situations where he's close to getting a guillotine choke or close to getting the rear naked choke. Had him in a crucifix with some ground and pound, and just like I was saying, just dominated the first round. And then coming out in the second round, it was a lot of the same. Just Cody Brundage trying to just kind of maybe hit a desperate shot before getting taken down and dominated, and that's what ended up happening in the second round as well. And before you know it, at 3 minutes and 38 seconds of the second round, Bo Nichols has found Cody Brundage's back and got him in a rear naked choke and got the submission. So not a real surprise from that fight. I think with my prediction, I did pick Bo Nichols, but for some reason, even though Cody Brundage, I don't think he's ever really been. I guess he's lost some fights due to knockout, but Bo Nichols, even though leading up to this fight, he only had like 5 fights. I'm trying to remember, and he had 2 by knockout. I don't know. Probably the safer prediction for me on that would have been to predict that Bo Nichols was going to get the submission. That's easy to say now, but for some reason I picked Bo Nichols to win this by knockout. I thought he was going to get a knockout, Cody Brundage, but there was no reason for him to be in a scenario where he needed to try to get some kind of knockout standing or even in ground and pound. It was easy enough for him to sink in a submission, and that's how it went. But honestly, I think I would have preferred to see Yuri Prohaspet versus Alexander Rockage or Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holmes as that entrance into the main card, the pay-per-view. But still, I'm glad people that couldn't afford or didn't pay for the pay-per-view were able to see some of the great fights still on this card. All right, now on to the second bout. We had a lightweight bout between Arman Sarukian versus Charles Oliveira. And I originally picked this fight. I thought Charles Oliveira was going to win this fight by way of submission. And there was 2 opportunities where he had a chance. He early, like in the first round, he got a a guillotine choke that looked really tight, and he put a lot of effort into it, but wasn't able to secure the submission. And then throughout basically the rest of the first round and on into the second round, he was basically just getting held down, and I wouldn't really say beat up, but Arman Sarukian was pretty much controlling like the entire fight, and that kind of carried over even into the third round. But then when like less than a minute, maybe like 40, 30 seconds left, Charles Oliveira found Arman Sarukian in a Darce choke, in a submission again that looked relatively tight. You had Charles Oliveira making a face at the end, sticking his tongue out as if he had the Darce choke in real tight. But Arman Sarukian knew how much time he had. He was throwing the thumbs up, and Charles Oliveira wasn't able to secure the submission. But in this lightweight bout between Arman Sarukian versus Charles Oliveira, I had picked Charles Oliveira to win by submission, and there was two chances where it almost happened. It looked like he was almost going to get it, and then so it ended up just going decision. But some I guess some of the judges must have put more stock into the submission than the other ones, than the other two, because it did go split decision. It was 28-29 and then 29-28, 29-28 for Arman Sarukian. And that was a fight that I've heard it mentioned now a couple times, where that was supposed to be a title eliminator, a lightweight title eliminator bout. And that it seemed like towards the end, where Charles Oliveira has Arman Sarukian in the Darce choke, that fight was just kind of just getting going by the time it ended. So that's something to question and maybe think about in the future, is if a fight is going to dictate who gets the title shot next. Maybe those fights should be raised to 5 rounders as well, because I think the fight was just kind of starting to go into Charles Oliveira's favor, whether Arman Sarukian was slowing down a little bit, or he was just being a little reckless with his neck hanging out there. And maybe if that fight would have went 2 more rounds, Charles Oliveira could have got him in something serious and maybe actually stopped him. But that was a exciting fight, kind of funny, just by the way Charles Oliveira was acting at the end, thinking that he maybe had a good submission in, but I didn't go that way. And then onto the lightweight bout. This is for the BMF title. Who was the champion, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. And this fight, I originally I think Justin Gaethje, because he was the champion and because he had a little bit more impressive recent wins and had just won the belt. I think most of the odds had Justin Gaethje winning this. He was the favored fighter, and I just took kind of into stock and take it into account that I thought Max Holloway, he's basically never really been beaten by anybody but Alexander Volkanovski. So I'm just thinking, well, he's not fighting Alexander Volkanovski, so he should probably have a pretty good chance to win this fight. But I took into account as well that both Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway are very tough fighters. Haven't been finished a lot in their career, even though they both had a lot of fights. And Max Holloway, at least coming into this fight, had never been knocked out, and maybe never even been knocked down until this fight. But taking all that into account, how tough of fighters these are, obviously they're fighting for the BMF championship. I thought this fight was going to go decision, and I thought Max Holloway was going to just box his way to a unanimous decision, or maybe even a split decision, but a decision. I did not anticipate him getting the knockout, the stone cold KO punch with 1 second left in the fight. So that's how it ended up going. And I would have loved to have seen this fight, how it would have played out if Justin Gaethje wouldn't have got his nose completely obliterated by a spinning heel kick by Max Holloway at the end of the first round that just shattered his nose and completely compromised him for the remainder of the fight. But Justin Gaethje, that didn't stop him from still looking competitive. And I mentioned, I think it was Max Holloway finally got knocked down, at least not knocked out, but knocked down in a fight. And Justin Gaethje landed a fair number of quality shots themselves, but this, for the most part, was just a boxing match. Well, I guess kickboxing match, because some of the most damage that Max Holloway caused to Justin Gaethje was the spinning heel kick that hit him right in the nose and just shattered his nose and left him to where he couldn't breathe out of his nose and he's having to breathe out of his mouth. But that didn't slow Justin Gaethje down at all. Uh, it was just pretty much a kickboxing bout throughout and all the way till the end. And I think because Justin Gaethje's nose was compromised, I think that led to Max Holloway basically being able to, at least on the stats and the scorecard, was pretty much dominating the whole fight. And I think Justin Gaethje knew that the only chance that he had to win in the fifth round and at the last round was to get a stop of his own. So when Max Holloway came to the center of the cage and was pointing down at the ground, saying like right here, let's throw down. I think Justin Gaethje just bought into that because he knew his only way of winning was to get a stop, and it didn't happen like that. They both were throwing wild punches, and Max Holloway countered one with like a perfect overhand that just completely slept Justin Gaethje like it was like a pitcher. You couldn't make that fight up, or the way that fight ended better than like in a movie. That they could have made a movie highlights of how people think all MMA fights go or how they end. But that definitely, hands down, was one of the best fights in recent memory, at least, and easily the best fight this year already. And I was talking, I wanted to go back over who the receivers that received the $300,000 bonus. So this may have made some people salty. This would have made, if I was another fighter that thought I had a good performance, like Kayla Harrison or Davison Figueroa, you'd have probably been a little salty knowing that Max Holloway ended up getting like the two other bonuses for that fight. So he got the one for fight of the night, and he got one for performance of the night. So he got $600,000 off of that. Maybe I haven't paid attention to it or noticed it, but I never noticed a fighter winning uh, a fight of the night bonus and a performance of the night bonus on the same card. So where with the old amount, it had been just 50,000 would have been 100,000. But yeah, if I was some of these other fighters that thought I had a great performance, that would have left me a little salty. So we have a new BMF champion now in Max Holloway, and it'll be really interesting to see what path he takes now. Does he take a fight, uh, a title fight at lightweight now, or does he drop back down to featherweight? Ilya Tapora had some comments for him, thinking that the performance wasn't that impressive, or will he just hold on to the BMF title for a while and see if he can defend that a couple times? I'm definitely excited to see where Max Holloway career leads now. So now on to the co-main event. This is the women's strawweight bout between Zhang Weili, the champion, versus Yang Zanana. Uh, uh, Yan Zanan, and this fight could have been ended multiple times. Zhang Weili pretty early in the first round felt Yan's power, and from pretty much there on out, she was looking to keep the fight on the ground, try to ground and pound and land submissions, and pretty much dominated pretty much the whole fight, and probably should have had the submission victory over Yan at the end of the first round, where she had her in a rear naked choke, and at the end of the bell, with maybe just like a second and a half extra, gave her a nice good squeeze before she let her go, and she was asleep after that. Let's see here. Yan Zanan. but so then there was their controversy after that when she went to her corner and the corner man asked if they wanted them to wake her up, and I guess the announcers thought that they were using smelling salts or some illegal substance to wake her up, and they were really questioning it through the second round, which was a lot of the same from Zhang Weili just kind of dominating Yan Zanan and uh, landed a bunch of ground and pound and even got her in a head and arm triangle choke. But seemed very sounds real likely. Likely story when they came back with what the story came from the actual corner man saying that they just put like ice in her nose or up around her septum to try to open the airways. Seems like a likely story to try to not ruin a fight or get a fight disqualified or just ruin UFC 300 with something like that. So I'm not so sure if I believe that he just used ice on her nose, on her septum, and didn't use some kind of smelling salt or something like that. Be interesting to see how that plays out. But Zhang Weili pretty much dominated the whole fight. I think maybe it was the third or the fourth round. Yang Zhan landed some good side kicks that knocked Zhang Weili down a couple times and got her scrambling a little bit as if Yang Zhan maybe landed something, but there was a couple times when this fight looked like it could have got stopped. Obviously, at the end of the first round, and then she had her in what looked like a pretty tight head and arm triangle choke, and then there was another time with ground and pound where it looked like she was landed 20 plus unanswered strikes, but it never got stopped. It was definitely it was a title bout, and they were giving Yan Zhan the benefit of the doubt, that's for sure. But I originally picked Zhang Weili. I thought she was gonna win that fight by knockout. She almost did get the finish, but almost did get the finish and almost did get the knockout. It's just the referee. The ref wasn't being very compliant for me. But still, that was an exciting fight and just a show of heart and toughness from Yan Zanan. And same thing with Zhang Weili. You're fighting someone and they just keep coming and they're like a zombie. It's hard not to get discouraged a little bit yourself, especially when you think you finished a fighter twice in a 5-round fight. And then on to the main event, the light heavyweight bout between Alex Pereira, the champion, versus Jamal Hill, the former champion. He never lost his belt. He had to revoke. He was revoked it or had to give it up after tearing his Achilles in a basketball game. And there was a lot of trash talk leading into this fight, mostly from Jamal Hill. Mostly Alex Pereira was just listening to it, and obviously he was taking it in and using it as a fuel to his fire, because this fight didn't end up lasting very long. It went the 3:14 mark of the first round, and it was funny kind of how what led up to the knockout, because Alex Pereira just pretty much looked so confident and comfortable on the feet, and then Jamal Hill, what I was saying before this fight, leading up to this fight, that really either of them probably shouldn't just stand right in front of each other and throw bombs and strike. Well, it worked for Alex Pereira. It did not work for Jamal Hill. And I picked Alex Pereira to win this fight by knockout, but I didn't think it would be in such dominant fashion. I thought maybe it would come, maybe towards the end of the first or maybe in the later rounds. But no, Jamal Hill, he just stood right in front of him, and leading into it, Jamal Hill even had a little bit of a cup shot on Alex Pereira, and Herb Dean tried to come in and stop the fight, pause the fight, and Alex Pereira just kind of waved him off, and then right after that knocked Jamal Hill out. And I've heard some people say that the stop, the almost stoppage in the fight, and maybe distracted Jamal Hill because it led right into him getting knocked out. So maybe he was after him landing the cup shot. Maybe he thought it was going to get stopped, so he just caught him off guard. But just with that, how dominant it looked and how he wasn't even able to take a clean shot, it was just like a glancing like hook, I do believe, and that just completely slept him and put Jamal Hill to sleep. And you actually, for one of the few times you got to see some emotion out of Alex Pereira, because he was showing his hands like, see, this is what happens basically when you talk trash to me and think that you're going to knock me out and all that. And he proved it, and it was impressive. And after the fight, he said that he might want to move up to heavyweight, which I would love to see that. Now that John Jones is hurt, I'd love to see Alex Pereira versus Aspinall, or if John Jones ever comes back, I'd love to see Alex Pereira versus John Jones. But this card, it lived up to its billing, and because you had 3 fights that were 5 rounders, that was the main thing that I took into account. Is, man, this fight card, it went to like 1 in the morning, 1 a.m. Central Time, and it could have went even later if uh, Alex Pereira must have had some dinner reservations or something. So thankfully, Alex Pereira was able to get Jamal Hill out of there a little faster. But let's just go over my picks real quick, just to clarify them. I did pretty good in just the picks, man, not so great in the outcome, the method. But in the first fight on the card, middleweight bout between Bo Nichols versus Cody Brundage, I picked Bo Nichols to win by knockout. I thought he was going to get the knockout, but he ended up just dominating Cody Brundage on the ground and got the rear naked choke submission at the 2:38 mark of the second round. And then in the second bout uh, between Arman Sarukian versus Charles Oliveira, I picked Charles Oliveira to get the submission. And there was 2 opportunities in the fight where it looked like he was coming very close to getting it, but wasn't able to do it. And that fight ended up just going all 5 rounds, all 3 rounds, 5-minute rounds, so the full 15 minutes, and it was a split decision. So I almost picked the right fighter, and then so it was split decision 28, 29, 29, 28, 29, 28. And then for the third fight on the card, the lightweight BMF title bout with the champion Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. I thought this fight was going to go the decision, and I actually thought Max Holloway was going to box his way to a decision, and that's pretty much close to what the outcome ended up being. Besides that last tick on the clock, where they threw down with the last 10 seconds, and Justin Gaethje was the tower that fell out of the 2. So it almost went decision. I thought it was going to go to decision, and I thought Max Holloway was going to win. So I was very close. I was very extremely close on that one, because the fight ended at the 4:59 mark of the 5th round with a KO punch that left Justin Gaethje slumped and twisted in the middle of the cage. And then on to the co-main event. I picked this was Zhang Weili versus Yan Zhang, and I picked Zhang Weili to win this, and I thought that she was going to get the knockout in this. And honestly, Yan Zhang probably was closer to ever landing a really clean shot in the striking game. But after that, she had those nice body kicks, but after Zhang Weili pretty much discovered, and it was obvious that she pretty much was dominant over Yan on the ground. She's just a more well-rounded fighter. Maybe doesn't have the same type of power in her fist, but definitely was the better mixed martial artist overall. So I picked Zhang Weili to win by knockout, but she came very close to getting the stoppage, either by submission or TKO ground and pound, but it never got stopped like that. And so it ended up just going 40, 49, 45, 49, 45, 49, 45. So Yang Yan, she won one of the rounds, but obviously probably I would say it was either the round where she was getting ground and pound like completely unanswered shots, like 20 something unanswered shots, or where it looked like she got completely put to sleep by rear naked choke in the first round. One of those rounds must have been a 10-8 for Zhang Weili. So it went all 5 rounds, the whole 25. And then the main event, Alex Pereira, the champion, the light heavyweight champion versus Jamal Hill. It went the way I expected. I picked Alex Pereira to get the KO, and that's what it happened. I just kind of didn't expect it to be in such dominant fashion, and I didn't expect or definitely didn't advise Jamal Hill or Alex Pereira really standing right in front of each other and striking. But it played out in Alex Pereira's favor, and just it was just this at the end of the fight was just a great way to cap off UFC 300. And now the UFC's mission now is to somehow try to top it. I don't know if they'll have to wait till UFC 400 to do it, or they're trying to make some of these next ones in the 300, the 301, the 302, not talking area codes, see if they can even come close to this. I find it hard to believe, and I kind of doubt it, but I think that was the whole purpose of UFC 300, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's next, and definitely excited to see what's next for Alex Pereira and Max Holloway in the future. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So can I get a check, please?